Commander Eli Voss leaned against the cool metal railing of the observation deck and watched the endless swirl of stars beyond the viewport. The hum of the ship's engines was a steady comfort, but his mind buzzed with nervous energy. Sighed, Dr. Mira Hale adjusted the sensor array that tracked nearby nebula activity. She moved with quiet confidence, her dark hair pulled back so no stray strand fell into the instruments. Eli cleared his throat. He had spent too many hours trying to find the right moment, and now or never seemed as good as any. He turned to Mira with a half-smile and said, "I want you." He spoke lightly, letting the words hang between them like a friendly challenge. He expected laughter or a quick joke back. Instead, Mira paused, her hand resting on the console as she studied him. For a moment, only the low electronic beeps of the sensors filled the air. Then the rest of the crew on the deck noticed Eli's comment. Lieutenant Sato snorted, and Engineer Hayes let out a bark of laughter. A few others joined in, voices echoing off the steel walls. "Nice one, boss." Someone called Mira did not laugh. Her eyes, usually calm and focused, held something new. They shone with quiet surprise, like distant lights in a nebula. Eli felt a warmth spread through his chest. He wanted to look away, afraid he had crossed a line, but something in her steady gaze kept him rooted in place. The deck lights dimmed for the night cycle. The stars outside glowed even brighter. Eli watched the reflection of Mira's eyes in the glass and wondered what she thought. He had always known her as the ship's chief scientist, precise, logical, and kind. But now he saw a hint of something more: curiosity, and maybe a bit of hope. Myra stepped closer to the railing. She inhaled deep, as if tasting the cold air that drifted from the hull vents. "Eli," she said, her voice soft but clear. "God, you surprised me." She looked out at the stars, then back at him. "I never guessed you felt that way." Words were simple, but they carried a weight that made his heart beat faster. He shrugged, trying to keep his tone casual. I do." He paused. I didn't know how to say it. His hands flexed at his sides. He wanted to reach out, to bridge the small gap between them. The rest of the crew had drifted back to their duties, leaving Eli and Mira alone in the quiet light. Mira studied him for a moment longer, then nodded as if she made a decision. She placed her hand on the railing, close to his. Their shoulders nearly touched. "I'm glad you did," she said. "I want to know more." The words made him smile so wide he could not hold it back. He felt weightless, as if he had left the ship and floated among the stars. Behind them, the ship's central computer announced a routine systems check. The deck lights brightened slightly, and the steady rhythm of life on the ship resumed. D. And Mira stood side by side, watching the silent dance of galaxies. Eli gestured toward the sensor console. "Would you like to see the latest readings?" Mira nodded, stepping back to her station. He followed, and together they studied the glowing display. Numbers and graphs scrolled across the screen, but for Eli, the most important pattern was the one forming between him and Mira. The rest of the crew passed by without a second glance. To them, it was just another quiet moment on a long voyage. For Eli, it was the beginning of something new, an unspoken promise beneath the endless sky of stars. He felt hope, strong and shining, that this journey would change more than their course through space. It would change both of them forever. Weeks later, Eli and Mira stood on the surface of a strange world, the air shimmering with soft light. Giant crystals grew from the ground like trees, their facets glowing in pale blue and violet. The survey team moved carefully between them, instruments in hand. Eli watched as Mira recorded data with steady focus, her face lit by the crystal's glow. The ground trembled beneath their boots. A sudden crack ran through a nearby crystal, sending tremors through the forest. Eli grabbed Mira's arm and pulled her back just as the crystal split, its top crashing to the ground. Dust rose in a gentle cloud, and the team froze. Mira's eyes met his, and relief spread across her face. Eli gave a quick nod. "Are you all right?" he asked. And Mira brushed dust from her sleeve and smiled. "Yes, thanks to you." She bent to inspect the broken crystal, her fingers tracing its smooth surface. "This fracture could tell us how these crystals grow," she said. Already thinking like a scientist, they worked side by side, measuring angles and taking samples. Eli admired the way Mira's mind turned danger into discovery. She filled her datapad with notes, her brow furrowed in concentration. The other team members watched them with respect. Eli felt proud to stand with her. After the measurements, they climbed onto the back of the mobile lab vehicle. The engine hummed as they drove deeper into the forest. Crystals arched overhead, forming translucent tunnels. Light danced across their faces, and Eli felt a quiet wonder. He pointed ahead. "Look at that cluster," he said. "It could be a new formation." Mira leaned forward, studying the formations through the windshield. Her eyes brightened. "You're right," she said. "We should get samples." She tapped her tablet. "Shall we deploy the drone?" she asked. Eli pressed the button. Drone away. The small craft lifted and hovered between the crystals, its lights scanning every surface. They watched the live feed, marking areas of interest. When the drone returned, they collected the samples and stored them carefully. Night fell quickly. In the crystal forest, the glowing trees turned brighter against the dark sky. Eli and Mira sat on a smooth crystal path, sharing a ration bar. The rest of the team rested nearby, tired but satisfied. Eli passed Mira half his bar. She accepted. It and bit quietly. They sat in companionable silence, listening to the soft hum of the crystals. Mira looked at him. "I did not expect this world to feel so alive," she said. Ali nodded. "Neither did I." He turned to her. "I'm glad you are here." Her smile was gentle. "I'm glad too." She held up a small crystal shard. "This one is different. It has layers inside, almost like history trapped in stone." She showed it to him, and he saw tiny patterns like rings in a tree. They talked late into the night about the mission and their lives before the ship. Mira told stories of her home station, where she learned to love science. Eli spoke of distant Earth landscapes he longed to see again. They found common ground in curiosity and hope. Each shared memory brought them closer. When the night cycle ended, they returned to the lab vehicle. The crystals dimmed as the ship's lights faded. In the vehicle's soft glow, Eli placed his hand gently on Mira's. She looked at his hand, then into his eyes. No words were needed. They both knew this journey had deepened their bond. As they prepared to head back to the starship, Eli felt a surge of happiness. The glowing forest had shown him more than scientific marvels. It had shown him the warmth in Myra's eyes and the promise of something new between them. Together they surveyed one last cluster before they left, confident that their partnership would grow stronger with each world they explored. Eli stood in the ship's briefing room as the holographic map of the nebula glowed above the table. Crew members gathered around, their faces lit by shifting colors of gas and dust. Mira stepped beside him, adjusting the datapad in her hand. News of a hidden alien artifact had reached the colony leaders, and now Eli would lead the expedition. He turned to Mira with a steady smile. "Will you join me on the team?" he asked. His voice was calm, but his heart raced. Mira met his eyes, for a moment before nodding. "I'd be honored." Her words were quiet, but clear. Around them, the crew murmured in excitement. Eli felt pride swell in his chest as Mira gave a small wave to the others. Later, they moved through the ship's corridors to prepare their gear. Mira carried a case of specialized scanners, each one gleaming silver under the lights. Eli held a crate of portable shields and tools. They walked side by side, passing the mess hall where crew members gathered rations. Eli stopped to grab 2 cups of hot tea and handed one to Mira. "I thought you might like this," he said. She accepted it with a gentle smile and lifted the cup to her lips. Steam curled around her face. "Thank you," she said. "It means a lot." They stepped onto the airlock deck, where the rest of the team waited in suited form. Lieutenant Sato checked his weapon systems while Engineer Hayes tested the landing thrusters. Eli raised his voice so they all could hear. "Remember, Art. The goal is to find the artifact intact. We move carefully, chart every step, and trust each other." Mira clicked her helmet into place and spoke into her comm unit. Scanners are online. I'll monitor energy signatures as we progress. Eli gave a thumbs dash up. Once the shuttle cleared the ship's hull, bright gas clouds stretched in every direction. The nebula was alive with colors emerald, amber, and violet swirling together like living paint. Eli felt a thrill as the shuttle dove toward a cluster of floating asteroids. The shuttle landed on a rocky platform that hovered among the stones. The airlock opened with a hiss. Eli led the way, stepping onto firm ground. Mira followed closely, her scanners beeping softly. The asteroid cave yawned ahead, its entrance framed by jagged rocks. Inside, the cave walls glowed with faint lines of energy. Mira knelt to examine one. "These markings look like a language," she whispered. She traced the lines with a gloved finger. "Maybe they tell us where the artifact is." Eli shone his flashlight on the walls, lighting the path. Deeper into the cave, each step echoed in the silent space. The floor sloped downward, leading to a wide chamber where a pedestal stood alone. On the pedestal lay a small device that pulsed with blue light. "One artifact, coming right up," Eli said softly. He approached with measured steps. Mira watched his back, scanners raised. When he reached the pedestal, he paused, looking back at Myra. "Ready?" he asked. Mira pressed a button on her scanner. The device hummed and confirmed the artifact's detector signal was strong. "Go ahead." Eli picked up the artifact. It felt cool and lightweight, its surface etched with symbols. As he lifted it, the chamber lights brightened, revealing more glowing lines on the walls. Mira smiled with wonder.
Wow.
"It's more beautiful than I imagined." Eli tucked the device into a padded case. "Let's head back," he said, his voice full of triumph. They retraced their steps, the artifact safe in their care. Outside the cave, the crew cheered when the airlock doors opened. Eli handed the case to Engineer Hayes, who secured it in the shuttle hold. On the trip back to the starship, Myra leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes for a moment. Eli watched her, feeling a swell of respect and fondness. She opened her eyes and gave him a small nod. "We did it together." Eli reached over and gently squeezed her gloved hand. "We make a good team," he said. She returned to squeeze, her eyes shining even through the helmet visor, as the nebulous colors drifted past the window. Eli felt hope blossom. Together, they would unlock the artifact's secrets and face every new world side by side. The shuttle docked with the colony ship just before the morning cycle. Eli guided the crate holding the alien artifact through the airlock, and Mira followed close behind. Bright corridor lights washed over her face. Word had spread quickly that they had returned with something remarkable, and the crew hovered in clusters. Eager to see what the artifact could do, they entered the council chamber, a tall room lined with polished metal and large viewing windows, showing distant planets. Colony leaders sat behind a curved table, their expressions serious. Commander Voss set the crate on a pedestal in the center, and Engineer Hayes carefully opened it to reveal the device pulsing with gentle blue light. A hush fell. Dr. Hahn, the scientific advisor, leaned forward. "This energy pattern is unlike anything we've seen. It could heal damaged ecosystems or power our shields." He tapped his datapad, displaying graphs of the readings. "But we need to test it first." Governor Reyes frowned. "Testing takes time we may not have. The border worlds cry for aid. We must decide if we send this now." Her tone was firm. She saw the artifact as a tool for immediate relief. Myra rose and stepped forward. "Governor, I understand your urgency. But if we rush without understanding its full effect, we risk harm." She placed a hand on the case. "Let me run controlled. Trials in the lab, we can learn how to use it safely." Eli nodded beside her. "We can split the power output. A small sample for relief now, and the rest for analysis." He caught Mira's eye and gave a small, reassuring smile. She returned it with confidence. The leaders exchanged looks. After a moment, Governor Reyes sighed. "Very well, we take a small portion for immediate aid. Dr. Hale, prepare your lab. Commander Voss, oversee the delivery convoy." Her voice softened. "I trust both of you." Mira and Eli left the chamber together. The corridor, Eli placed his hand on Mira's back. You did great. He offered his tea flask. She took a sip and smiled. We did great. Their teamwork shone brighter than any artifact. In the research lab, Mira arranged glass containers and energy conduits. She and her assistant technician, Lee, carefully calibrated instruments. Eli watched the readings with interest, asking questions. Mira explained her methods in simple terms, and Eli's respect grew with each answer. He admired how she turned fear into thoughtful action. Meanwhile, a convoy of supply shuttles loaded a sealed canister containing a small crystal shard from the artifact. Eli joined Lieutenant Sato to oversee the delivery to a nearby colony suffering from failed crop biomes. The shuttle lifted off, carrying hope in its cargo bay. Eli felt pride that their work could ease suffering. Back in the lab, Mira initiated the first test. Power flowed into a nutrient tank containing algae samples. Lights above shimmered as the artifact's energy activated growth sequences. Mira watched intently as algae cells multiplied faster than expected. She took notes and glowed with excitement. This is beyond my forecasts, she said softly. Eli entered with news. Delivery arrived safely. Colony reports improved. Soil health? Within hours. He tapped his cum clip. Thank you. Mira's eyes gleamed. She closed her datapad and turned to him. This is just the beginning. That evening, Eli and Mira walked through the ship's greenhouse. The plants grew under artificial lights, many sprouting faster after nutrient supplements. They paused by a young sapling symbol of new life. Eli reached for Mira's hand. She laced her fingers through his, and they paused in comfortable silence. He spoke quietly. We used hope today. Mira nodded. And tomorrow we learn more. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Together they looked at the growing sapling and the galaxy beyond the viewport. In each other's company, they knew humanity would meet every challenge with science, care, and unbreakable trust. A week passed since the first trials, and the artifact's power had already helped to colonies. Eli and Mira stood in the hydroponics bay, where lettuce heads and tomato vines grew nearly overnight. The air was sweet with green life. Mira adjusted the nutrient flow while Eli checked the water pumps. They moved in rhythm like dancers in a quiet hall of plants. Mira paused and wiped a drop of condensation from her brow. These plants are stronger than any strain we grew before, she said. Eli nodded, watching the vines curl toward the lights. Your work is changing everything, he replied. He felt pride in her calm confidence and gentle care. Later, in the council chamber, Mira presented her full report. She described safe energy levels, growth rates, and possible applications for medical bioreactors. Colony leaders leaned forward, impressed by her clear data. Eli stood beside her, offering quiet support. When Myra finished, Governor Reyes asked, "What do you recommend next?" Myra took a steady breath. Expand trials to medical crops. First, then use remaining power for habitat repair. Some leaders argued for faster rollout. Mira listened respectfully, then spoke again. Safety must guide speed. If we rush, we could harm native life. Her calm voice filled the room. Eli watched how she balanced hope with caution. After a moment of silence, Governor Reyes nodded. We follow Dr. Hale's plan. That evening, Eli and Mira walked the ship's promenade. The glow of distant stars painted the windows in pale gold. Crew members greeted them with smiles. Mira carried a small data tablet, and Eli held 2 steaming cups of tea. He handed one to her, accepted it with a grateful look. They sipped in companionable silence. Suddenly an alarm chimed. Red lights blinked softly along the corridor. They hurried to the engineering deck, where a technician Lee pointed to fluctuating readings on a console. The artifact's power output is spiking again, she said. Systems can handle it, but it's unexpected. Myra frowned and leaned in. Show me. Eli watched Mira's calm hands navigate the controls. She ran a quick analysis. It's a self-regulating pulse, she said. It only spikes when living tissue is near. It adapts. Eli exhaled with relief. So it's alive in a way. Mira smiled softly. It learns with us. Their eyes met, and for a moment the world beyond the ship ceased to matter. Then Mira tapped a sequence to stabilize the output. Within seconds, the readings returned to safe levels. Technician Lee let out a breath she did not know she held. Back in the hydroponics bay, Mira inspected a row of medical herb plants. Each leaf seemed to glow with health. Eli placed a hand on her shoulder. "You gave this world a second chance," he said. Mira looked up and offered a small, tired smile. We all did it together. She reached out and intertwined her fingers with his. In that touch, they shared more than hope. They shared the certainty that humanity's best strength lay in unity, kindness, and a desire to learn no matter where the stars took them. The daily systems check began without warning when the ship's sensors detected a massive solar flare racing toward their location. In the command center, red lights pulsed as alarms rang. Eli Voss stood beside Engineer Hayes, watching the readouts. The flare would strike in minutes, and its energy could overload the starship's shields and life support systems. Mira Hale hurried into the room, clutching her datapad. "The artifact's power can boost our shields," she said. "Oh, wait. Must reroute energy carefully." Her calm voice cut through the panic. Eli met her eyes and nodded. "Do it," he said. "I'll coordinate the power links." Mira ran to the energy control console while Eli gathered the engineering team. He spoke clearly into his CUM unit. "Divert 20% of artifact power to the forward shields and 10% to life support. Keep the rest in reserve." The crew moved swiftly, following his instructions. Lights on the console shifted from green to yellow as power levels adjusted. In the energy lab, Mira typed commands on the console. Her fingers flew over the controls, balancing artifact output with ship requirements. The hum of the artifact grew louder in the nearby containment field. Blue light pulsed in time with Myra's commands. She checked each parameter twice, then signaled to Eli. "Reroute complete," she announced. Her face glowed in the console light. Eli stood before her, his expression both relieved and tense. "Good work," he said. "Now let's hold it." Moments later, the solar flare hit. Outside the command center's viewport, bright plasma waves swept past the hull. The shields flared white, then blue as the artifact's power reinforced them. The ship shuddered, but the structure held. Readings dipped briefly, then stabilized. A collective sigh rose from the crew. Engineer Hayes grinned and slapped Eli on the back. "We did it," he said. Eli allowed himself a small smile before turning to Mira. She wiped her brow and exhaled. "The artifact adapted faster than I expected," she said. "It responded to living energy, just like before." Eli and Mira walked to the observation deck after the alarms fell silent. Outside, the stars returned, unbroken by the flare. Crew members gathered around them, offering nods and thumbs up. In the soft glow of the deck lights, Eli handed Myra a cup of warm tea. She accepted it gratefully, holding it close. They stood side by side at the railing and watched the stars. Mira's eyes reflected the distant lights. "Today we saw why we keep going," she said softly. "Use our minds, our courage, and our hope," Eli nodded. "And we do it together," he replied as the night cycle began. Mira and Eli returned to the hydroponics bay. The plants thrived under the artifact-powered lights, their leaves bright and strong. Mira reached out and touched a fern frond. "Life finds a way," she whispered. Eli placed a hand on her back. "And we help it," he answered. Later in the mess hall, the crew shared stories of the flare. Lieutenant Sato raised his cup. "To Commander Voss and Dr. Hale," he said, "for saving us all." The room echoed with applause. Eli and Mira exchanged a proud smile. They stood together as the crew's heroes, but neither forgot the teamwork that made their success possible. Turning in for the cycle, Eli and Mira stepped onto the quiet promenade. The corridor lights cast soft shadows. Mira leaned against the railing. Eli stood close, his arm around her shoulders. "We faced fire and fear," he said, "yet we prevailed." Mira rested her head on his chest. "That is the HFY spirit," she murmured. In the silent hum of the ship, they found peace. Together, they would meet every challenge with science, care, and unbreakable trust. Eli stood on the observation deck as the artifact's soft blue glow pulsed behind him. Beside him, Mira watched distant nebulae drift across the viewport. The journey so far had tested their skills and their bond. Now with the artifacts, safety trials complete and colonies healed, it was time to set a new course. He turned to her, breathing steady. "We have more worlds to help," he said quietly. Mira nodded, her eyes reflecting starlight. "I want to stay with you," she replied, voice soft but firm. Eli felt hope bloom. He reached for her hand, their fingers lacing together. Round them, the ship hummed a promise of fresh beginnings. Later, they entered the ship's command center. Crew members prepared navigation charts for unexplored systems. Eli tapped a star on the holographic map. "This one has uncharted biospheres," he explained. Mira studied the readings, her mind already racing through scientific possibilities. "We could bring relief there," she said, pointing to faint energy signals. The other officers smiled, inspired by Mira's steady confidence. That evening, in the small lab where the artifact rested, Mira adjusted its containment field for long voyages. Eli observed her careful work. "You've learned its language," he said. She looked up and smiled. "It learns with us," she answered. He watched as she calibrated safety protocols, ensuring every crew member would travel in comfort. As the ship prepared to depart, the landing bay brimmed with well-wishers. Technician Lee hugged Mira, thanking her for the medical breakthroughs. Engineer Hayes clapped Eli on the shoulder for saving the ship from cosmic threats. The crew's respect warmed both their hearts. Standing together, Eli and Mira felt surrounded by friendship and trust. Before liftoff, Eli guided Mira back to the observation deck. The stars called to them new challenges, new hopes. He placed his arm around her and said, "With you beside me, I know we can face anything." Mira leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. In that silent moment, their promise was sealed. The engines ignited, and the colony ship glided free of the docking bay. Outside, the artifact's glow faded to a gentle pulse, save for the long voyage ahead. Eli and Mira watched as the stars stretched into lines of light. Together, they charted a new path, one driven by science, compassion, and humanity's unbreakable spirit.